Kroger, massive grocery store chain, right? It's closing 6 QFCs and Fred Meyers in Western Washington, in liberal-run, progressive Western Washington. And they're coming right out and stating it's based on safety issues and shoplifting. Is that really the story? Let's get into it. Here we go. Let's watch a little video. Gotta watch some video. There's some good video on this.
Now at 11, 2 Fred Meyer grocery stores will be closing for good in Western Washington in mid-October because theft has gotten out of hand. Thanks for joining us tonight at 11. I'm Preston Phillips. Kroger confirms it will shutter one location in Kent on Southeast 240th Street and another in Everett on Evergreen Way. KOMO's Jackie Kent went to both stores. She's live tonight with the impact and what's next. Jackie?
And Preston, here in Kent, one man who's worked in the produce section for 15 years got emotional describing having to leave the store and customers in just a couple of months. Meanwhile, Kroger says they have to shut it down because they're just not making enough money to cover all their costs and operations, in part because of theft. Kroger says its investments in safety, like hired security, are no longer enough at 2 of its Washington Fred Meyer stores. The supermarket giant confirms it's closing a store in Kent and this one in Everett on Evergreen Way.
It really saddens me, but we need to crack down on the crime.
Is that going to be a big inconvenience for you?
It is. I'm going to change pharmacies, and that's going to be a headache for us.
The Everett store has been in the spotlight in recent years. Someone drove through the entrance, then lit their car on fire. And in late 2022, the store manager...
I'm sorry. Wait, what? Somebody drove their car into the grocery store and then lit it on fire. Yeah, that's the kind of nonsense you've got going on. Now, what I would say is the Everett location, absolute dumpster fire. Everett is just, especially Evergreen Way, that is a known dumpster fire. Kent, because of demographic changes, has become an absolute dumpster fire to the south. You got population moving. That's not good. So Kent, no problem with that. Everett, yeah. Okay, let's keep going.
Their car on fire. And in late 2022, the store manager at the time asked city council for help in responding to reported drug use and theft.
They also use our restrooms as a place to shoot up or do fentanyl.
In a statement,
just nonchalantly, and we've heard this time and time again. You got a homeless population, it's based on drugs. They're going to be doing their drugs in the grocery store because, hey, let's go do a little shoplifting and do our drugs. They'll clean up the mess. And that's what goes on. And at some point in time, I don't know exactly what it triggers it, but literally, this is their corporate statement right here on the screen. Due to a steady rise in theft, okay, yep, I can buy that. But here's the thing that I can't buy, is that the theft is outstripping their profits. I don't have a problem with these stores closing. I think you should close them all in areas that are just overrun with crime, because that sends the message to the leadership, hey, you're not doing anything about this. You need to hammer down on crime. But that's not what's going on in Western Washington. Western Washington is an absolute free-for-all right now. The 90-second, $2 million break-in in West Seattle of the jeweler. I mean, absolutely mind-blowing. I'm sure you've seen that video. $2 million in 90 seconds. And Sean Barnes, the police chief, Seattle police chief, is eating lunch nearby with the security detail. He didn't know. He's like, why are all the cops coming? Well, it's because he had a big break-in and he got away with a bunch. But due to a steady rise in theft and a challenging regulatory environment, somebody help me out with that. What does that mean? What is that double speak for that adds significant costs? We can no longer make these stores financially viable. Is it the reinsurance? Every day they do stock, right? There's always somebody doing stock. And if what they have doesn't match up to what they sold, then they turn it in for insurance and get paid out on insurance, right? Something along those lines. Has it become such that they've got maps now where they go, well, here's the crime here. You guys had a break-in. You had somebody take their car and go into the store and light it on fire. That doesn't exactly say conducive to normal business, does it? No. So the regulatory environment, that makes me think, and I've been talking about this, I think this is all insurance related. Insurance companies are pulling back. They're saying, nope, we're not doing that. And what we've had is we had a massive, massive merger between Albertsons and Kroger. I think those were the entities. Yeah, it didn't work out. It didn't work out. Got shut down in court system. So now Kroger's going through and they're like, all right, we need to tighten things up. If this is our new world order where we can't do that merger, we got to figure things out. And what they're going to tell you is, well, we've got a challenging regulatory environment and shoplifting. The shoplifting isn't enough to warrant shutting these stores down, in my opinion. Because when you start looking at the numbers based on their gross, it doesn't make sense. So that's where I'm kind of thinking, you know what? I don't have a problem with you shutting the store down. Just be brutally honest with us. Why? Why is it? Is it because you can't get insurance on this store? Okay. All right. Just be transparent. They don't owe us transparency though, right? They owe transparency to their shareholders and nobody else. Employees, we all know how that's going to go. You're going to lose your job. They're going to say you can get a job at one of the other stores. Maybe. And that's horrible for these people that, have to make changes to their lifestyle. But if you have been voting for politicians in Western Washington for year after year after year, and you're voting blue, this is what you get. You get stores closed down in your community, and you're going to see more and more of that because it's out of control criminal activity. You got a bunch of nut jobs running around doing shenanigans. We can no longer make these stores financially viable. Let's keep going.
The closures to a steady rise in theft and a challenging regulatory environment that adds significant costs. A spokesperson adds that both locations are no longer financially viable despite doubling investments in safety and security in recent years. In Kent,
we haven't really seen that amount of theft that would warrant shutting down a store that we're currently in the parking lot of that is busy.
Okay, but just because your store is busy, and maybe it's busy because you got a whole bunch of people shoplifting, that's what goes to my mind. But I'm going to tend to believe him where he says this doesn't make sense because I've looked at all the numbers and the stories where we're closing this store down, and you're like, really, really? Now on the back end of that, if it's an insurance issue, he wouldn't have access to that data. Hey, your insurance policy is going to go through the roof. The way that you're going to account for your losses, we can no longer do business with you on an insurance basis, on a reinsurance basis. So that could be one of those chunks along with the security. Now, I guess I'll just say it now. One of the 6 Fred Meyers is a store that I shop at, and we'll get to it, and I'll give you my feedback.
It is a busy parking lot.
Brian Gilderoy has worked in the produce section of this Fred Meyer on 240th Street for 15 years. He says he's not buying Kroger's claims that there's too much theft happening here, noting the closure news comes less than a year after Albertsons sued Kroger for a failed merger of the two chains. He worries about what the customers and his coworkers will do when this building closes for good.
Corporate did not take into account the community impact and the worker impact on making this decision.
No, that's not really their thing. So, yeah, I mean, they're a business. They're a for-profit business. They have shareholders. This is not a community-run Mondami store. They have to answer to their shareholders. It's all about the money. Show me the money, right? That's what it's all about. That's what it's always been all about. All this stuff about, well, if they cared about they don't give a shit about their employees. Honestly. I mean, they say they do, lip service. But bottom line is, can I get out of you enough to make it sense for me to pay you? That's what they do. Can we run this store with you as an employee? Because if not, and if it's not an employee related issue, which it sounds like it's not, if it's some other issue, then that's the issue you got to focus on is it an insurance issue? You can no longer get insurance where the premiums are so sky high at these stores that it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. There's a reason they're closing it down. I don't believe it's what they're saying it is, but yeah, corporate lying to us? Phew, shocker there, right?
Stores in Western Washington this fall. The locations include the Everett store on Evergreen Way, the Kit location on Southeast 240th Street, the Redmond store on Northeast 76th Street, and the Lake City store in Seattle. According to...
All right, let's talk about this for 1 second. We've already covered Everett, train wreck, Kent. Oof. Yep. Redmond. That is not that far from my home. I shop there occasionally. There's a closer Fred Meyer that is probably 1.5 miles from my home. I shop there, and I've watched all the changes that Kroger has made. I've watched the way that they shuffle you in. They basically got you in this cattle call kind of deal. They've got multiple security guys. Oftentimes they're armed, walking around, whether it's a taser or, whatever. And they're definitely spending more on security for sure. Got all kinds of stuff going on. Lake City way northeast. Lake City is an absolute dumpster fire again. That's it's not that far from Aurora, which is you got hookers walking up and down it in underwear. And we're like, Kroger's shutting a store down on Lake City Way. That's weird. No, it's not weird. These are locations that are super sketchy. Now, what I'd say about the Redmond was it's in the eastern portion of downtown Redmond, and I have seen multiple homeless just kind of bumming around out on the major arterial out in front. I don't know. I don't shop there enough to know if shoplifting is a major issue. But apparently there's been enough reports there. Their insurance is being impacted as well, because that is a busy area for retail. It's in the same parking lot as a Home Depot that I go to all the time in Redmond. I mean, this is Microsoft country. This is not ghetto. You know what I mean? But hey, let's keep going.
So Kroger cites financial problems and theft as the causes for these stores going away. What's your take on that?
I do not think that's accurate. They made $2.7 billion in profit in 2024. And they've, consumers and workers and families worked to block the Kroger-Albertsons merger. During that period of time, they sent so much money back to Wall Street. They sent enough money back to Wall Street. They could have opened up 280 new stores that we could have had access to shop in. Consumers right now are facing a massive affordability crisis in their food and in their housing.
Yeah, why has that inflation gone to the moon? Yeah, why has that happened? Well, Joe Biden had that program. It was, what was it called again? The Inflation Reduction Act. That actually dumped a few $1 trillion into an already overheated economy. We are still living with that. We're still living with that. But keep voting blue, because, what else are you going to do, right?
And we find this really unacceptable to have an out-of-state company like Kroger out of Cincinnati be making decisions like this to create food deserts in our communities.
So
There's not a food desert. There's a ton, and we're going to look at it. There's a ton of stores in these areas. There's a ton of stores. Food deserts is something that Democrats rely upon to freak out the constituents. Oh my gosh, you're not going to be able to get food. You're going to have to go an extra quarter mile to get food. And you're like, well, why are they closing down the stores? Because you're robbing them blind, or you've got safety issues? There's something along those lines. And maybe it's just, hey, if we're not making XYZ dollars, we're going to close it down. And so, that is viable. That is a viable reason. If you've got all these stores, if the merger didn't go through, you're going to have to put something on the chopping blocks. You're going to take the ones that have the highest operating costs, the greatest, loss prevention, all that stuff. You're going to have to make decisions. They're making decisions, and that's what we're analyzing.
Members working at these 4 stores notice any kind of uptick in crime? Has this been a conversation that you've heard of?
No. Actually, if you talk to the surrounding police departments, even the Everett Police Department is citing that crime is decreasing. During COVID, when everything was closed down, people were going into those stores to wash their hands, to use the bathroom. There was no place for people to go. And definitely there was an increased crime. There was increased incidents inside the stores. Also,
people washing their hands in the bathroom increases crime. That is a stretch. Now, if you would have said whacked out homeless people screaming at the moon are wandering into Fred Meyer and stealing stuff, I'd buy that. The urban outdoorsman going in to wash their hands and oops, an item fell into my pocket. No.
Because of the privatization of liquor, which we predicted, when you put a whole bunch of liquor inside of these stores where they used to be in the liquor stores and very controlled, you see increased crime. You saw all sorts of more.
Yeah, but the hard liquor is always locked up. So that again is a misnomer. It's just not true.
Stealing of liquor, those sorts of things. So that is something Kroger spent a lot of money on to try to privatize liquor. And did we see any affordability to our liquor? Did the cost go down? No. So what Kroger is.
Did the cost go down on anything? No. They went up. You know what I mean? You just want to take these people and go, hello, McFly.
Doing is taking three of the four stores that they're closing per zip code. They're in lower income communities. And that is really hard on working class people. Like, we need to be able to go to the grocery store. We need to be able to get affordable eggs.
Yes, that is one issue. You also need to elect people that are tough on crime, because then you wouldn't have these safety issues and you wouldn't have these insurance issues. Because this is based on years of data. It's based on past years of data. It's not based on what exactly happening today. They're making decisions based on the last 3, 4, 5 years, and they're looking at charts and they're going, well, this isn't exactly coming way down. We're going to close that one. That's how corporate decisions are made. Not that hard to figure out. And they don't give a crap about the employees. They just give, verbal, oh, we love you. Keep working hard. Yeah.
Need to be able to get milk and cheese. And what's happening is when you shut down those grocery stores, those one-stop grocery stores, it makes it harder for families to get what they need. And we're very disappointed in Kroger.
And so be disappointed in your local leadership not cracking down on crime. Redmond, I would contend, is pretty responsible when it comes to crime. It's not a city where anything goes. That just doesn't happen. But you've got some leadership. I mean, there's always this leadership issue where it's Western Washington, it's Washington State. Cops can't go after people. So you've got a bunch of stuff. You've got ideology that, doesn't allow people to crack down like they might in some Eastern Washington communities and really go after. You've got a bunch of judges and you've got a judicial system that doesn't exactly go after the criminals, right?
They have no reason to do this. They are making so much money.
Well, speaking of Faye, what will happen?
So then, okay, they have no reason to do it. If that's true, why are they doing it? Why are they doing it? Because they're not making enough money at these stores. It's not that they're losing money. They're just not making enough. So, yeah, those more Fred Meyer stores closing in Western Washington, bringing total to 5. Okay, let's go with our wackadoodle representative Pramila Jayapal's statement on Kroger. Let's see what kind of communist socialist statement she's got on this. Seattle Congressman Pramila Jayapal said, food deserts aren't a natural phenomenon. No, they're created by Democrats. They're created by progressive Democrats who allow crime to fester in their community. And then everybody's shocked when corporate says closed, right? Giant grocery store corporations create them. No, they don't. Your citizens create them. Who is doing the criminal activity? Corporate? No, pull your head out, right? We create them when they put their bottom lines over the health and well-being of our communities. They don't care about health. They don't care about well-being. They care about corporate profit. And that's what all businesses do. It's not that hard to figure out. Again, pull your head out. Well-being of our communities and workers, her statement began. Closing stores will put people out of work. Yep. That's what happens. But hasn't Kroger said we're going to move you guys to other stores and make it harder for families to put food on the table? Families, that's why it's really important that you vote for people who are tough on crime. Make that vote count. And all for the benefit of corporate shareholders, and even as CEOs take home millions in pay every single year. Well, I mean, do you want a CEO who doesn't create corporate profit if you're an investor? No. What do you got to pay those bastards to run these big, massive corporations? Millions and millions and millions of dollars. That's how this works. Again, it's not that hard to figure out. Pull your head out of your behind. I founded the Monopoly Busters Caucus. Seriously, Monopoly Busters Caucus in Congress to fight back against this exact kind of treatment of working class people, consumers and workers. And we'll be fighting to ensure that everyone has access to quality, affordable food. Why don't you crack down on crime instead, and then these stores won't close? What about that? Is that an option? Create some public safety? We don't have cars going into stores and then whack-a-doodle people lighting their own car on fire? I mean, we just saw that, right? Not that hard to figure out. Not that hard to figure out. All right. So here we go. Additionally, a spokesperson for Fred Meyer released a list Tuesday of other nearby stores in operation that are not closing. Everett. You've got, what do you got there? 7? I mean, these are all, you got QFC, Fred Meyer, QFC, Safeway, Grocery Outlet, Walmart, Trader Joe's. In Kent, you got 4 there. I'm surprised there's still 4 left in Kent. Kent has literally been difficult. For Lake City, look at Lake City. You got tons. Redmond, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And yeah. To say that this is a food desert is laughable at best. It's we're not getting the full truth, but the truth ain't from our Democrat leadership as well. You know what I mean? You've got a storyline there. You got a narrative. And this is not just a Kroger deal. Remember when we started talking about Target way back when, and Target's closing some stores, but Target wasn't closing the stores that had the most crime counts? And we're like, hey, what's going on? What's happening? It's got to be a back-end insurance deal. That's my thought. If somebody wants to let me know what they think it is, send me a big, long-ass email. I'll try and get through it. Only if it makes sense. Because I get so many emails from you guys that, I don't know if you're up at 2:00 in the morning and you're 14 bourbons in and you're like, I'm going to send Sean an email. And I get just, this stuff where I'm like, what? What's going on here? Hey, that is a crazy theory and I'll read it, but can't exactly podcast that because getting from your logic point A to point B, tricky. All right. That's it for me. Expect more stores to close is the bottom line. Expect more stores to close because you've got some criminal activity that's just rampant. Meanwhile, you know what the, media mantra is right now? Crime is down. Crime numbers are falling. Well, then why is Kroger closing stores? And it's not just Kroger. It's a bunch of stores. And you know what? Grocery stores, different than retail shopping for clothes. Wildly different because everybody needs food. Not everybody needs to shop in a mall for clothes. Doing that online, right? Amazon. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. Love to have you subscribe, hit that notification bell, all that good stuff. I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.